Welcome back to another episode of the Lore and Gold Journey. My name is Max, and we finally did it. We unlocked the second zone, and what we are choosing is to pass on the torch over to Zone Bound here. We haven't even signed in yet, as you can see there's no zone. We're going to be creating an Orc Monk who is going to carry out the Lore and Gold Journey in Durotar. As you can see, Jailed is taking a little bit of a knee here if we need him. He's primarily best in dungeons for pickpocketing and also for opening treasures, so he's going to be very useful in that sense. But for the story portion of my clip in Durotar, we're going to be looking at Zone Bound here because I want to kind of get an inclusive view of what the zone looks like and try to avoid just flying over everything and making it not very exciting. We want to be able to experience the zone, so what I think I'm going to do is go back to a riding mount and just use this character similarly to how I started Jailed, so that we can see it from just the ground standpoint, a nice aesthetic, nice scenery, and get to enjoy the game in that sense. One thing I would like to clarify is we want to try to stay in the new zone that we're unlocking. So we're going to be trying to stay in Orgrimmar and Durotar to be able to make our gold. And that's primarily because we want to keep things interesting. I'm not going to be using the auction house other than just selling all the stuff that I have because, I mean, it is a valid way to make money. I'm not going to be flipping stuff because I don't primarily find that to be super interesting. I mean, if I just log in, throw some stuff up on the auction house and log out every day, that doesn't make for very entertaining content in my opinion. I understand there's a place for it, but that's not what the Lore and Gold Journey is all about. So what we're going to try to do, we're going to level up in the new zone with the Orc. We're going to complete all the quests there with the Orc, and then we're going to try to make the money on both characters while learning a little bit of lore, and we're going to upgrade the gold cap to maybe 20, maybe 25,000, and then of course we're also going to unlock dungeons like Wailing Caverns when we get into the Barrens, and then also Ragefire Chasm, which is in Orgrimmar, so we'll be able to unlock that as well. So there's a few extra things to look forward to in the future, such as just being in new zones. We don't just want to watch me farm the essence of undeath all day, so we'll definitely make a new change and we'll get to see some new things. And I'm excited for that, to change things up and not be stuck in this gloom and doom zone forever, which, in the case that a zone is awful to get gold in, of course I have income just from all the stuff I've done in the past, but also I can go into the old zones. That's only if the gold making in the zones is so horrendous that it's just terrible to take a look at. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully we can find some gold making methods in every zone. I know even the worst zones typically have a dungeon or two that we are able to farm gold in, or just some unique mat, because no one likes going to those zones that we can farm and make some gold there. So I'm excited to take a look at that in our future. Durotar has a lot of different offerings, and we're going to start off with Orgrimmar City. Orgrimmar City has a lot of different benefits to it. There it is. And I am really excited to take a look and see what kind of benefits we have this time around. One huge benefit of Orgrimmar City is that it is the, first of all, transportation hub of all of the Horde. You have the entire portal room. There is also a Zeppelin that takes you to Thunderbluff from here, and then also to Tirisfal Glades too, though that's now just a portal. It used to be a Zeppelin. Another really big benefit to Orgrimmar is Ragefire Chasm. There are a lot of different greens out of there. We can also farm the bosses for different loot. But overall, I'm not entirely certain what the rarity of the loot's going to look like. We're going to have to take a look in the future after we make a little purchase from the Ethereals, which, in this case, will be 5,000 gold. The Midsummer Festival is also another big benefit to Orgrimmar City. We have the main hub here, which we can purchase things from, and also do quests for extra rewards. Durotar has such a rich culture. It all goes all the way back to Warcraft, and it goes up to today. I mean, it spans that entire time with new things changing. We have the Siege of Orgrimmar. We have the changes in the Dungeon of Ragefire Chasm. It's the primary hub for transporting things in and out of the city, such as going to Dragonflight content, such as this boat in front of us that brings you there. I mean, there's just so much history in the zone. And that's one of the great benefits of it. There's a lot of things to consider. And one of the downsides of Durotar is that there's not a lot of content in Durotar just by itself. A lot of the questing is fairly short and even faster than Tirisfal Glades, I believe. But I am particularly excited to be able to see the rich zone, the nostalgic feel of creating an orc again, and then just getting to see what it feels like. Like when I tried to make an orc the first time, when I was a little kid, not remembering how to play or not even knowing how to play the game, and then finally getting to see what it's like. And it's going to bring back a lot of memories, and of course the zone has changed over time with Cataclysm as well, as the Barrens were impacted so greatly with the giant chasm. The entire map has changed over time, but I am very excited to see how the gold making goes in particular, but also the lore is rich in this zone, so I'm excited to remind myself of that and then remind you of that as well, because there's so much to think about. It is time to do a little bit of questing, a little bit of progression being made, and a little bit of story time too. So basically, the orcs entered into the Eastern Kingdoms through the Dark Portal and Blasted Lands, led by Gul'dan. They are searched for better land, safety, food, all sorts of stuff like that. They weren't safe with the Burning Legion invading their planet, and their safety was compromised. So what they did is they traveled through this dark portal powered by souls of the Draenei, seen in the World of Warcraft movie and also in general lore too. And basically, they got through. The Alliance thought they were all savages. They fought them out because they were all seen as, evil. At least the majority of them were seen as evil. And they were chased out of the Eastern Kingdoms. They left the Eastern Kingdoms, they went to Kalimdor, and they arrived here. They found the Darkspear trolls, they grouped up with them. They also found the Tauren, who were fighting centaurs. They helped them beat the centaurs so that we have Mulgore as we have it today, mostly clear of centaurs. They were hunting the Tauren to almost extinction, and that's kind of shown by the lack of Taurens in lore. We mostly have Cairn and a few other staple ones too. Quickly enough, we were able to complete some quest chains. One was just shortly with fighting some Alliance mobs, just like we were at the start of the account. And this is to help out some trolls. We also helped them out getting some venom and stuff. But either way, we made it here. We're in Orgrimmar. We just completed some quests here for the Midsummer Fire Festival, and I gained a level and a half very fast. So that was really convenient. And then also we get the materials here. I'm at 26 of them. I don't feel like I'm actually going to be able to buy anything. It looks like there are many different things I don't have yet, and they're all very expensive. And they're also not war-bound, so that kind of sucks. But either way, back to questing, and as you can see, we got our riding mount too, which is a nice little boon there. And then one last thing, we've been getting some gear from my other character, Jailed, as well. The leatherworking coming in handy to give me some bonus stats to increase my speed of leveling. One cool trick that not many people know about is relating to setting up your Hearthstone. The way that you are facing when you make an inn your home is the way that you'll be facing when you hearth. This specific inn, you can stand just slightly outside, and as you can see, we can mount up. So you don't have to run forward at all when you finish hearthing. So I'll just show you, give a little example here. And what we'll see is we'll be exactly where I was standing when I started the hearth, or when I learned the new inn. And there we are, we're right outside, we can mount up. And most people, what they do is they come in, they run up to her like we're role-playing a little bit, make the inn your home, and now when you spawn in facing here. You have to turn around and you have to run out. So just a little quick tip, you can always just turn around before you learn it, and then you're always turned around in the future. Just saves you a little bit of time. I'm making one quick and slightly obvious pit stop that one should make when they're trying to make gold. I'm going to learn mining, and also I already learned herbalism. It's mostly for the XP that you get. Skinning doesn't give any bonus experience, and we're already killing the mobs, so we don't really get anything extra out of it other than the leatherworking levels. So I'm going to learn these two, mostly for the experience, because it's nice to get a boost. It'll make me a little bit of gold, but I'm not going to farm these for most of my gold. It's just kind of an extra little boost to my XP more than anything. And then in the future, one thing I've considered is maybe getting enchanting. And enchanting will be really good for disenchanting all of the greens that aren't selling on the auction house that I posted 50 times. So we'll take a look at that in the future in case that happens. One thing I definitely wanted to bring up is how many herbs and ore there is in this zone. You can literally see there's 6 on my screen, and I just run in this direction, and there's going to be like 6 more. I'm just surrounded in mats, so it's just basically free experience. So I'm really happy I went ahead and picked this profession choice. It's been really beneficial for me. Hopefully it makes a lot of gold too. Alright, we hit level 12. Level 13's not too far away. Questing is generally really fast experience. Like, we'll turn in these groupings of quests and I'll probably be a whole level ahead of where I'm at already. One thing I wanted to get into a little bit is more about the lore of this area, because we are clearing the Northwatch sharpshooters and guards and whatnot. And basically, I wanted to lead to the point of the Northwatch to explain who they are. So basically, Medivh was convinced or controlled or influenced by a demon, someone in the Burning Legion. I don't know exactly which one. It could be Sargeras. That would kind of make sense. To open this dark portal to allow the Horde or the orcs into Azeroth, because he also wanted access into Azeroth. So basically, he assisted in getting them over by convincing Medivh, this powerful magi, who was the Guardian of Tearsfall, I believe their title is. And so basically, he convinced them to open the portal. Once that sufficed, they got that opened. All the Horde flooded in. The Alliance thought they were terrible. They were just savages that were going to destroy their lands, take over their world. So they kind of ran them out of Eastern Kingdoms. And eventually they happened upon Durotar and Kalimdor in general, and we talked about this earlier already, so I won't go too much into detail on that. However, after the battle for Mount Hyjal, where the Alliance and the Horde kind of had to come together, Jaina learned that Thrall, the leader of the Horde, was actually not a bad guy at all. They realized they did great teamwork together, they were able to better Azeroth as a team, and she kind of saw all this battling between the Alliance and the Horde as dumb. I mean, she didn't think it was a good idea. She thought there was a lot more value to everyone being on the same team. We can see in the future that didn't pan out so well when she came back at the Horde, tried to murder all of them in Dalaran after they dropped a bomb on her city, but we'll get back to that later, perhaps. Actually, we will. We'll be going to Dustwallow Marsh, so we'll get a little bit of idea on what happened there. But basically, they got shooed out of Eastern Kingdoms, they landed in Kalimdor, they went to the battle for Mount Hyjal to get the demons out of there. I think that was, oh man, Kil'jaeden? Archimonde? Archimonde sounds more like it, so I'll just stick with that one. I'm not 100% certain. But basically, they finished Mount Hyjal. The Alliance, and I'm sure some of the Horde weren't 100% keen on the Alliance either, as how quick they were to clobber all of them as they arrived, but both sides fought each other, so I mean, both are kind of at fault in that sense. But the Proudmoores, Jaina's family, they are from Kultiris. That is part of the Battle for Azeroth expansion, and also, I mean, it was referenced many times before as well. But they went on this journey. They crossed over from Kultiris all the way over to Kalimdor to try to end the threat, basically. And the primary outpost in this space is the Northwatch outpost. So basically what they're trying to do is keep the Horde in check, make sure they're not going anywhere, and they want to kind of just kill them off, basically. And so they're constantly battling. So that's kind of what we're seeing in this zone, and you'll learn over time that the Northwatch weren't actually liked that much by Jaina. She didn't really want them to be there. She wanted them to get out of there, but she was also feeling very... It was kind of required of her to keep up this facade of needing this Northwatchman guard, and basically they patrol the entire area to keep the Horde in check. It's kind of sad, but also I guess it's what they deem as needed. So that's that story. It kind of takes a dark turn. Jaina wanted to tell her father, Dalen Proudmore, I think that's her father. Yeah, Derek is her brother. And she wanted to tell Dalen that they're not actually savages. They're great people. However, she did not reach her father in time when he arrived in Kalimdor to fight off the orcs. The orcs won because they found all of these allies here. And he was killed. Her people exiled her, including her mother, because she thought, or they thought, that she was at fault for just kind of siding with the Horde, because Thrall was a good guy. I mean, he wasn't there for violence. They are very much so honorable people, most of them anyway. And yeah, her family and her people exiled her out of Kultiris. And that's part of why it took us so long to go back there, because, well, there was no need. We weren't welcome there. So that's kind of the story with that. Everyone exiled. Jaina, her brother Derek actually comes back to life as an undead. Sylvanas wanted to resurrect her in the future, and resurrect him in the future to use him as a weapon against Jaina, but I think it was Cairn Bloodhoof that brought them back together. Or is it Bane? Either way, I think it's Cairn. He brings them back together, and they were able to reunite. I don't know exactly where Derek is at this time, but her people kind of re-welcomed her. They understand her position at this time. Most of the people that opposed Jaina were just the ones who were following Ashavane's company, who were just these corrupt group trying to get all of the Azurite out of the world and use it as weapons. So it kind of supports the old gods too, in a sense, and also the Naga, so they were all corrupt. Eventually that kind of gotten taken care of. But the old god portion, as we know with the current expansion, things are going to change there too. So we'll get to see what kind of happens in the future. I'm excited to see where the Midnight storyline goes. But yeah, we'll kind of look on some future expansion content in a little bit when we reach the Elementals. So I will get to explain kind of what happened with them too. And here is one of the aspects of a future expansion that I mentioned. So the waters flooded over from the river into Durotar's mainland. And this is following the Cataclysm, where there were a lot of changes to the land's environment. The shamans have learned that these elementals are fighting one another because, well, they aren't happy with the forced connection of the two, I suppose. They didn't really grow into a great amount of detail on it just by looking at the quests. However, there is a guy that just wants us to murder them just so that we can have a nice little route from point A to point B, trying to get across the river here to transport goods. So there you go. That's most of that. Another thing we were requested to do is clear out some of these drowned thunder lizards from this big body of water. Durotar, as you've seen, is kind of a barren wasteland. Some cacti are growing, and other than that, it's all rocks and sand and weird animals that will bite you or sting you or poison you, whatever the case may be. So what they're having me do is remove these thunder lizards from the water so that it becomes drinkable and is not a threat because they still have some latent electricity, I guess, regarding their corpse. So they just had me swim down, and of course I'm able to just tank electricity, I guess, and no one else could. So I had to attach the ropes to them. Either way, that's pretty much it for that too. Alright, well, we have finished all of the questing, so I'm kind of unlocking flying for myself. And what we can see here is we actually made quite a bit of gold just by farming the herbs and ore. As I said, this isn't going to be my primary way of making money, but if I'm just mining and herbing as I move along places and I make a lot of money off of it, who am I to say that that's wrong? This place has so many herbs and ore that it's probably the best route that we could go to just make a little bit of side cash as we're traveling to and from different places. I haven't seen many rares, so the drops there aren't great. And then regarding treasure chests, I haven't found any of those either, though I do know where a few of those are. Before we wrap up the video, I find it really important to include all of the little knowledge nuggets that I have in my brain, so one of them has to do with this big rock that kind of has a strange shape to it, so we're going to get inside of it, I won't tell you how, and then take a look at what's inside. Alright, we are inside this rock, As I said, I'm not going to really tell you how, but basically there's a memorial up in here based on one of the developer's father, who, I don't know if it was the developer or his father who made Orgrimmar, or at least helped develop it a great amount. But either way, this is just a little bit of information I remember from many years ago when I started playing WoW and learned about this. Either way, with all of the lore being taken care of for the most part, I understand there's a lot of little tidbits throughout many expansions, 20 years worth, but that's all the questing, and the next video is going to be primarily about the gold making. So I'm going to level up this character and do a little bit of experimentation, but we will check on a few different ways to make gold, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.